Welcome to the evolution of the Heal the Healer workshop. In this new sacred space, healing deepens through open and honest dialogue, indigenous wisdom, and the power of community guidance. Here we explore topics that shape our spiritual, emotional, and cultural growth. I am your host, Priestess Haneeraabounu, and I present to you Heal the Healer, Mami Goddaughter Edition.
Anyone else wants to add in what they feel the word demasking means?
Yeah, so I also have that perception of what demasking means. When you wear a mask, you want to portray a certain image, whether that be a better image of you or a worse image of you. Usually in this context, it's a better image of you. And what is underneath is something not only hidden, but undesirable, uncomfortable. We think about like as women, as Black women in our culture, when we have to go to, let's say, corporate America, they say you put on a mask, right?
Right.
Or when you see many different other cultures, they to face the public, they put on a mask. And I think that for Black women, it's unfair because what's underneath is not undesirable. But when you tag on colonization and all of the atrocities that have come with it across many different cultures, it's like hiding the ugly truth. And it's something that that we need to see as we move forward, as we heal. But that's how I associate the demasking.
Thank you. All powerful. Anyone else, I believe, out there that wants to chime in?
I would just say for demasking, colonization, there's a lot of work that we have to do, right? It starts with ourselves. That's a constant mirror that we, as African people born in colonization, have to constantly do, right? That is a mirror. It's so much of a mirror, it becomes a filter, like lens, that we have to look and always be reminded as how we're seeing the world. And it's because our placentas were born here. It's because we were raised by well, let's just say we weren't raised by our parents. Let's just say that we weren't raised by our parents. And so, because of that, we've taken on a different mask, the mask of the society that raised us. And so, as we start to realize and become aware and awaken to that idea and those ideals, we have to always be thinking of that. We have to always be um, asking ourselves, is this my true self? Is this my true, am I behaving like my true African identity? Or do I have that mask on? Am I being my authentic self? Or do I have this mask on? And it's so beautiful to be alive in this time right now and to see all of the unmasking happening. Yeah, so I'll relinquish my time. That was a good question.
Thank you, Shay. Anyone else who didn't get a chance to say anything? I believe everybody did. But, this is Heal the Healer, right? This is the workshop that we're actually in. And when I think about how does the healer heal, the healer can't heal if she's masked, if she truly doesn't know oneself. If you're living according to the beauty standards that American society has set, then she truly is not knowing her African self. And so when we ask the question about demasking, I ask also, how do you identify yourself? Do you identify yourself as an African American, or a woman who lives in Texas or lives in California? Or do you identify yourself as an African woman? I think part of our healing as healers is reframing a lot of things that we say about ourselves and a lot of things that we do. So some of the things that I kind of want to talk about today comes down to some of those things that we may be unconsciously and also consciously doing. So first area is diet. How is our diet? How is your diet? Anybody, tell me some of the things that you enjoy eating, and how do you think it lines up with your healing? So I'm going to open the floor.
So I'll start. I will be very transparent. My diet is not the best. I know I need to do better, and Spirit has been telling me to do better. However, I have not made that transition to that space. I did a couple years ago, and then kind of just fell off, and still have been in the space of knowing I need it. I don't have any serious health issues that are as a result of my diet, but I just know in spirit I need to do that. So yeah, it's just not the best diet.
Give yourself grace. This is a grace-free zone, safe zone, no judgment zone. Anyone else want to add in about diet?
Yeah, I think that diet's a very important topic when like talking about demasking colonization. If you look at many of our communities, our Black, brown communities, you will see an overabundance of food that will kill you. You will see the fast foods. You will see the greasy foods, the unhealthy foods. Even what, sometimes we think, oh yeah, Chinese food is good. It's not so bad for you. I used to work for a Japanese company, and I had a Chinese lady who really like taught me some things and mentored me. And she said, "Oh, that's not Chinese food. That's junk food. That's American food. We don't eat like that." And so even the things that we associate with kind of healthy are not very healthy. Um, I experienced when going back to Africa a change in diet, and a change on how I viewed diet. Usually, a lot of starches, a lot of sugars, rices, potatoes, bread is something that we stray away from here in the States. But in demasking that colonization, I do understand that the food is altered here. But when going back to Africa, the breads, the potatoes, the rice, all grown there, all coming from the earth, all foods that we consume on a regular basis fit with my body, you know. And so my diet did change. I did eat more vegetables. I did eat more fruits. Everything was what we would say organic. I did eat meat, fish primarily, but that's pretty much my diet. I try to stay away from the fast foods, and I would say that drinking water. But really, the highlight for me was like the fresh foods, the fruits, the vegetables. And even though there were a lot of carb heavy diets, it still worked well for my body. And so I try to keep that similar diet as I move around the world.
Sure.
That's beautiful that you bring that up, Agbasi, because that's one of the key things I noticed immediately myself traveling. back and forth between continents is that our natural diet, indigenous diet rather, is swallow or fufu or some type of pat, right? And a sauce, a tomato sauce. It's pretty much, there's no dairy, right? We don't really do too much dairy. But we do have a lot of starch. But because that starch isn't as processed, I mean, when you were there for how long?
Maybe about 5, 6 months.
Yeah, how much weight did you lose just naturally, not even trying?
Not even trying, I lost like 30 pounds.
Not even trying. And that's like your first trip. I mean, my first trip, I could say same thing happened for me as well. I was in more rural areas, like in the bush where, we would go pick the grains and grind the grains and then soak the grains and like really process the grains ourselves. And it was a day's labor worth of work, sometimes multiple days, to process the food just to be able to eat. And so the natural process, knowing the energy that was going into it, was just healing for my body. So my first trip, I had the same experience. But I would say for now, present day, current day, especially as a woman, midlife, right? Um, a woman who is at the age of, dare I even say, menopause?
I'm already
I
there.
dare I even say I'm actually rediscovering and having a new relationship with my diet. I'm getting to know myself all over again because, unbeknownst to me, I've never been this age before. I didn't know that my body was going to have such a drastic change. And, they talk about the hot flashes a lot, and we hear um, about the hot flashes. Like, that's probably the one thing that I heard a lot of, that, and you're not going to have your moon cycle anymore. But I am learning about other changes that happen within your body and how you have to customize your diet also, um, customize your exercise plan also in order to accommodate the new you. So this is truly a new initiation, so to speak, into life that I'm going through and discovering the new foods that work for me. So if anybody has some suggestions, if anybody have, a website, post menopause or what is it, perimenopause, guru, indigenous guru, or health hacks, let me know, because I'm like soaking up knowledge right now.
Yeah, I actually have a friend who does that. But it's funny how you were talking about diet and especially being a woman. So different times of the month, we have our ovulatory phase, follicular phase. We also have our luteal phase. Different phases of our cycle as women, we require different amount of nourishment. And so even though, for example, someone's going through menopause, it's also important that we still recognize what phases we are within that cycle. Just like the moon has a cycle, we as women also have a cycle, even when we don't have a bleed. And so having nourishment. And the reason why I brought up the whole subject with diet is because we as healers are not just healing ourselves, we're healing our community. And I look at the rise of African American people with high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney diseases. When we look at for example, a traditional white neighborhood, you don't see kidney dialysis centers popping up everywhere, but it's a big business in Black communities. And I think about our DNA, our haplotype, the foods that we are eating. Wouldn't it be possible that the foods that they are giving us directly affect our haplotype in the negative way? Certain medications that we use, like high blood pressure medications, some of those are specifically designed to target people of color. And so if we're looking at high blood pressure medication and they have this specific class that's here, that's they feel works better for Black people, it's like they're studying us. And the way that we can heal ourselves is to begin, again, decolonizing, taking off that mask and changing our diet and using food as a way of nourishment. I think as women of color, changing our perspective of the kitchen as our healing laboratories, so that not only are we healing ourselves, but we're also healing our loved ones, our children's, our husbands. That is how, again, we begin to demask some of the ways that our colonizers are still affecting us to this day. And diet is one of them. Another area, and oh, by the way, I was thinking about this when I was thinking about you, Mianu. Most of y'all know Mianu is a priestess. She's also a princess. And I thought about my favorite food when I was younger. Even as an adult, it was hot dogs. Like that's like the American meal. And I said, okay, Miano's gonna come to my house. Would I feed her a hot dog, right? The answer is no. Why? Because she's royalty. And part of also us knowing ourselves, we'll find out that we are royalty as well. So imagine your DNA, your very genetics is a queen, is a prince, which is why when we talk about ancestral reverence and getting to know oneself, it comes down to finding out where you came from. Because I thought about that and I said, if I am a priest as well, or a princess as well, just like each lady on this webinar, and our internal selves is rejecting the foods that we're eating because that's not a part of what our cells need to be nourished and to thrive. That could be one of the symptoms, which is high blood pressure, kidney disease, diabetes, is just one's body rejecting and letting it know, like, this is not what I desire to be fed with. And so re-looking at symptoms as possibly a little bit of taboos, like your internal higher self is telling you, like, Tiffany, this is not the foods that you would eat, just like you would not feed that food to someone who is royal, a queen, a princess, like Mianu. You should not also be feeding those same foods to yourself. And so it's, again, taking off that mask and looking at ourselves from the mindset of we are royalty and certain foods should not be ingested. And so next subject that I was thinking about comes down to the things that we place on our skin. Knowing that our body is the largest organ of elimination and also absorption. I'm a big skincare person. I love ingredients. And one of the things that I study is melanin, which is what we have, our beautiful skin and color. This natural melanin that God has given us allows us to bask out in the sun. We're nature's beings, right? So we like to bask out there and enjoy nature. Did you know that your melanin actually has an SPF factor of about 4 to 8 naturally? And some of us use sunscreens that are like an SPF 15, but our body naturally has an SPF of about 4 to 8 without applying any type of products on there. And so when we think about our melanin. We think about the cosmetic industry, different ingredients that they've placed inside of our hair products, skincare products, creating endocrine disruptors, destroying the very hormones that we as women naturally need. And so Mianu was talking about her hormones, especially as she's moving through these phases of life. But imagine too that the products that we're using, ingesting topically, applying on our hair with the different glues and different weaves that we place on our hair is further damaging our bodies. And so part of demasking is when you look in the mirror, what parts of your face do you not identify with that European society says is beautiful? And then we not necessarily may not have those attributes. So what are some of the things that you believe that they said about, Black women or Black people that is from a colonized mindset? The floor is open.
I don't know, I'm a Leo, so I like all the parts of my face. Yeah. But I can maybe, identify that in our culture, colorism is a thing. And even in that aspect, they, society likes to say that that's a Black person's problem. But if you look at colonized cultures all over the world, colorism is a thing. And so it just speaks to the, unmasking where white supremacy is in our cultures, in those traditional cultures that were colonized. I thought it was an interesting point that we shifted into talking about menopause, because that's another area that I think is also part of the demasking. When we are talking about the different stages in life as a woman that would cause you to need, more skin products, more hormones, change your diet. When we talk about those things, we sometimes we talk about it like it's a deficiency, like it's a disease, like it's something that's undesirable. But learning under Mianu and understanding like our culture, this is like, let's say the menopause, right? There are many stages in life that are seen as very important rites of passages. And I think she mentioned it saying like, this is like another initiation. And it's a very valuable stage in a woman's life to become an elder. And so that's something that's not really celebrated in Western culture. It's kind of like if you're going through menopause, then, it's, I don't know, you're losing something, or you're not as valuable, let's say, or desirable. And it's totally the opposite in African culture. So I kind of want to like push. How do we uh, traditionally view our rites of passages as a woman, including menopause, differently than Western culture, and how does that affect us?
Well, that's a great question because when it comes to demasking, that's like one of the areas that I agree with you. I am at that stage of life where, my menses stopped a long time ago. And it's kind of twofold. As I got into spirituality, I understood the importance of it. But that's only through spirituality did I develop that. But as far as the demasking, I was shameful, number one, of even having a cycle. And then when I went through menopause, I felt less than. I felt old. I felt, you know, like I'm on the other side of not good, you know? And again, that comes from colonization. Because as I learned more from Mianu, I learned the importance of and the honor of being an elder. But that's not necessarily what is educated or spoken about here in Western society. So I'm glad you continued on, you know, and you expounded on that, because yeah, that is me. That is one of the things that I have to write down to begin to unmask. Again, some things are unconscious, some things are conscious. And that's one of the things that I've actually been very unconscious about, was the fact that I'm almost an elder. I am an elder. And yes, I'm in menopause, but there's also a power that comes with that. And knowing that, because you see the power that comes, especially in spirituality, with having a cycle. But I also have to understand that there's also a power with being an elder. Alafia, alafia, alafia.
Definitely a power that comes with it. Now, I'm definitely learning the diet aspect as I go, and open to that. But believe me, my teachers and my elders who um, guide and help elevate me have prepared me and continue to walk me through this process back home. As you guys know, um, all of my teaching comes from um, the elders who, in our indigenous cultures, have held the knowledge with two hands, with great pride for generations. And let me, be the first to tell you that there are certain positions in your destiny that you can't even take as a woman until you reach this stage of your life. There are certain aspects of your destiny that may unfold if it's for you until you've reached this stage of life, And so just know where the Western society says, oh, you can't give me any more babies, you have no value, right? Oh, you you can't do this, you can't, you have no value. No. Again, that needs to be demasked. Is that the word they're using today? In addition to the different roles within your destiny, or the different missions in your destiny, that you can't access that power to be able to do that until you reach that. You have to just think, even from the education that I give you guys in the Heal the Healer course, right? What do you know about the masculine and the feminine, right? The feminine is in charge of this non-material spiritual world. And the masculine is in charge of this physical world, right? And when you become a elder, it's as if you're a hybrid. It's as if you have the benefit and power of both. Why is that? Because once you spiritually get to a point to where your voodoo are seated, right? And what I mean by seated, we can say stable, right? There's a certain hormonal or certain emotional stability that comes with becoming an elder, and spiritually, we say your voodoo are seated. Okay. When they become seated, there's a sense of clarity, there's a sense of logic, there's a sense of um, stability that a woman now has that gives her the ability to have better judgment, access uh, wisdom, be more knowledgeable. Um, and so um, I personally, I know I maybe because my elders prepared me, but I, I'm excited about any of the things um, that were mentioned earlier, or and knowing what this next phase is to come according to my culture. So yeah, there are some drawbacks. I'm not able to have children anymore, but guess what? I'm at a point in my life where I don't necessarily want no baby full time. I do want maybe to be a part of young people's lives or be a part of my grandchildren's lives. But I have so much excitement and so much um, love for life, and I'm so on mission. I don't want a baby on my titty. Enjoy the child, have a good time with them, spoil them, teach them, and then pass them on to their mom. And that is okay. That is just where I am. I don't have a need for um uh is it male validation? Maybe? I do have um yeah, it just that part doesn't. We have to remember this society that we live in is a patriarch society, right? But our culture is a matriarchal one, and so this I'm not really, and I wish that, and I think we need to have this education, and so that other women can again demask and know it's if we knew our culture in more than just this way, right? Because we're talking about diet, and we're talking about the rites of passage that um, with a woman going through menopause, but there's or when she becomes a wife or wants to choose a man or becomes a mother. There's so many turning points in a woman's life to where all they have to reference is what this society offers. And I think that us having more panels like this will help to educate, console, and give the confidence back to our women that they need, like help them rightfully take their power and identity back.
Okay, Alafia. Anyone else want to add in there?
No, I don't have anything to add. I just agree. It's like everything that everyone has said has been things that I have experienced or thought about. Um, but yeah, I just agree with everything that's been said.
Okay. You know, Miana was just saying about power, taking your power back. And man, I think about negative thought negative self-thought. Like, what do you say to yourself when nobody is there? When no one is listening, you know? Part of taking your power back or demasking is also what you're saying, the reframing. I was looking up this experiment a couple of months ago, and it was an experiment of, I think it was these mice. And these mice were subjected to, I think, like a shock. So every time they went down one path, they were shocked. And so they started learning which pathway to go down so that they did not have to experience any of that trauma. But the funny thing about that experience, that experiment, was that when those mice had babies and those babies had babies, every single generation knew which way not to go down. And so I think also part of decolonization is mentally and verbally the words that we speak out of our mouths. You know, maybe in the past, the colonizer told the Black man, you're never going to amount to anything. You're less than. You're too Black. You're too this. Whatever the rationale was. And then we look at generation after generation after generation. Some of that mental chatter is still within us. And so my question would be, who said that? Like, if we look at some of the negative things that we say about ourselves, who said that? Is it coming from us, like our true nature? Or is it coming from something that has been programmed way, way, way back, you know? But again, it's going into that DNA, going into those ancestors to pull out the true you, not the negative things that this world, this society has taught us about ourselves. Again, reframing. I think a good workshop would be one day is to look at words, ways that we as healers can begin to reframe the negative self thoughts that we are naturally speaking without even realizing it. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. You know, I've had some conversations even with Mianu, and Mianu's like, okay, who are you? Tell me who you are. I had to go back and kind of ground myself, because mentally and emotionally, I was speaking that negative thoughts that was, being programmed. So my question to you, what do you think some of the negative self-thoughts or negative things that they've said about us as people of color? And then how can we as women, as healers, begin to reframe those words so that we are speaking life to our community, you know, because sometimes it just takes one person. I really quick before someone comes on, I went to go see a play last Sunday. It was called The Princess in the Ghetto. And this play was so profound. It was so many multiple layers. You know, the princess, of course, lived in the projects. And she had a mother who lived in the projects. Her mother had self-hurt, a lot of hurt, you know, from past relationships. She had 3 kids, 3 children. And each one of them, she spoke negative to. Just, you're never going to amount to nothing. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And one of her sons was in jail, you know, came a part of the system because, again, he didn't know who he was. And all he ever heard was all the negative things from the person who you would think would be the number one person to nurture you, your mom. The number one person to speak life into, your mother. So the second son left home And then the last child was her daughter, you know, the princess in the ghetto. And she had a young gentleman who came by her house, and he began to speak life into her, tell her that she's a princess, you know, that she is more than what her mother was saying. And to see that whole trajectory of her life go in a completely different direction because of now beginning to reframe the way she looks at herself. And I think as healers, one of the ways we heal is being healed ourselves. I know we've all heard that saying that hurt people, which was that girl's mom, right? But our mantra now as healers are heal people, heal people. And so in order for us to really affect this world, it's going to start with ourselves. It's going to start with ourselves, knowing oneself, and then being able to pass that knowledge on to our community. So again, what are some of the things that you've heard, or negative self-talks that, you know, you may have heard someone else speak, but that could have come from colonization? The floor is open.
For me, it's just the stereotypes of Black women, the angry Black woman, and then those that we look up to repeating that. So, and they're not replacing that with anything positive. So just, I think constantly hearing that said about Black women, into the unhealed trauma of our ancestors. So we are carrying those unhealed traumas around, and we don't know that they're not our traumas, but we're not equipped to deal with those traumas until, like you said, it takes that one person. And as far as my lineage, I am that person to start that healing for the next generation, so that they don't carry the trauma of their great grandmothers, grandmothers, and mothers. So just like you said, just that one person, it takes that one person to heal those traumas so that it does not continue in that lineage.
Awesome. Anyone else?
For for me, I would say that a lot of the stereotypes around our intelligence is another factor. If you are highly intelligent, it's a surprise, right? Oh, you're very smart, or you're sharp, and you don't hear those type of replies to other cultures in that surprising type of way. And it makes it kind of works against you, because you then begin to think you're different, right? Or think you're better, or more associate yourself with the predominant culture. And so it kind of works as a separation tactic, in the same way when, you know, slavery was happening. If you were dark skinned versus light skinned, if you had curly hair versus kinky hair, they kind of create that separation where they can't create it anymore with, oh, you speak so well, you're intelligent, you're part of this group and not that group. And I think that that works against us as a culture, because it divides us so much. And so I would offer that one as well. Just because those are some of the things that I had to work through, when knowing that it's not a matter of only just intelligence, but opportunity, environment, upbringing, oppression. There's so many different factors, and that intelligence looks different, right? Scholastic intelligence that the colonizer praises may not be the only kind of intelligence that's important. Emotional intelligence is also important. Artistic intelligence is also important. Your intuition is also important. And so you begin to build values more. And I've learned more about this through my spiritual journey as well, like what other values of intelligence that is needed to really move forward in this life, and what's valuable. And it's not always, the showcase of your well, I mean, your mental skill is very important, but it's not the only thing. You can be scholastically intelligent and emotionally unintelligent, and so really finding what is valuable to our traditions, and moving more in that, and finding other people valuable in those ways is very important. And I think as a culture in the U.S., we tend to only lean to what's acceptable to the dominant, white culture here. So I would say that.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share? I think Miana's trying to unmute herself.
Sorry, I wanted to add as well, another thing, because I think you had mentioned this as well. Some of the beauty standards that we associate ourselves with. And one of the beauty standards is hair. Like they say, oh, you have a good texture, or your hair is long versus your hair is short. And it's funny that, that used to be something that I liked a lot about myself, was like my hair, whether it was short or long. Like it was like I can do things with this hair that some people, can't. And so I really like that. But through my traditions, through some of the rites of passages that I've gone through, some of the taboos, I have to keep my hair short. And that is something that, even, I'll be honest, like I still struggle a little bit with, because it's like that's a Western beauty standard, right? Having long hair, and keeping my hair short. Um, it's funny because some of my close friends and family say, "Oh, you look the best when your hair is short." I love it, and I have to get over that. That was something I really had to get over, and so I do like my hair short. I do think I look better with it that way, but it's still something that is not the norm in Western society. And you don't see the beauty standard there, like you do in Africa, where a lot of the women have their hair short. A lot of the girls wear their hair short, um, or very low cut, and the beauty standard is still like they are beautiful, they are desired. This is something that's not looked at as strange. And so that's one thing I would say as well.
Yeah, that's definitely some demasking there. Going back to even the experiment with the mice. I was reminded as you were talking, someone told me about certain places, I'm not sure where it was, that they would take a pin, put it in your hair. If the pin fell, you got the job, or you were allowed to kind of work in the house or something like that. But if that pin stayed, you know, your hair was considered nappy. So when we again go back to that mouse, experience, a mice experience, I think some of that reprogramming, or, like house Negroes, if I could say that word, definitely probably were light skinned, had the straighter hair, was desired as far as being beautiful. and those who were darker or with kinkier hair were considered not so so beautiful. And I'm in the skincare industry, you know, I'm in the industry now where I see the people who are permanently bleaching their skin, again, falling into social status. Like, you know, you're fair, you're rich, I'm dark, so I'm poor. So we have people who are chronically bleaching their skin to fit into this social status. And there are certain skin conditions. One of those is it's a word that you don't have to remember, but it's called ochronosis. And it's actually an epidemic in places like Jamaica, where people are chronically bleaching their skin to fit into this social status. The challenging part with ochronosis is that if you think about Jamaica, Jamaica's hot, right? So heat can be inflammatory. When we add these bleaching creams in there, we decrease that melanin that I told you about, that natural sun protection. We decrease that. And so over time, with using high amounts of hydroquinone or those bleaching agents, that protective mechanism stops working. And some of these patients turn like a blue-gray. And then they try to bleach their skin to get rid of the blue-gray, and the blue-gray never goes away. So now they're permanently disfigured. Again, mask of decolonization, you know, taking that mask off to know that our melanin, the color that we have, is beautiful, it's rich, it's who we are. So yeah, these are all different things that we are experiencing. Anyone else have anything you want to add, you know, with the hair, with the skin? And then we'll move into another one of our last subjects.
So I think with the hair, for me, it took me, and my skin, it took me a while to grow into my skin and be proud and know that it's beautiful without whatever it was. But hair, I'd say maybe in the last maybe 15, 20 years, I gotten to a point where I worked in corporate America and I just didn't give a damn anymore. Like, I'm tired of wearing wigs, tired of wearing weave. And I just decided maybe end of last year that this is my first time going bald. I've done short hair, short cuts, buzz cuts. But this, me and my mother did it at the same time. And we shave our heads just about every other day. And I've gotten so many compliments. Of course, you have those ones that are like, why would you do that? Why did you do that? It's none of your business. Because I wanted to. But growing into not having that mask of my hair to hide behind has really helped on this journey. And I think it goes with that the journey of getting older and different phases of that journey. Because I'm in that perimenopause phase, and it is, at first I felt like it was like, oh God, here we go. But I am appreciative that I'm able to go through this at this time phase in my life. Even though there are some struggles, and I believe I need, like, I'm going back to the diet. The diet plays a big part in it as well. So to me, this conversation is affirmation that I need to make that change to help on in this phase of the journey.
Congratulations. Well, welcome
I
to
do
the
think.
beautiful bald club. That's what I would say to that. Welcome to the beautiful bald club. I swear it's good over here. I don't know what everybody else is experiencing, but having short hair is a thing. If my hair gets too long, I tell you, something up in me just kind of is like, what is going on? Don't you feel that dirt on you? What is going on? Like, it's just too much. But talking about hair really quickly, I just want to chime in and say this part is when I don't want to say first started my journey, because I did start my journey and had one initiation. Um, I would say about maybe 5 years into, maybe 6 years into my spiritual journey, I had started with my evolution on the motherland continent, right? And had connected with my temple there, and was had been preparing for initiation. And when I went through my first initiation and came back home, and I took to my family and friends on Facebook, though the first question they had was, "How was it cutting your hair?" At that particular time, I had had locks um, for 17 years. And I had a child who had never known their mother to have any other style, because when I was pregnant with him, that's when I started my locks during that pregnancy. So even when he was born, like he never knew. Um, my younger self, right, younger self for hairstyles with me, give you guys a little bit of tea on Mianu. They used to call me Regine, right? And those of you who know, what was that? There was a TV show Kim Fields was in, and her name was Regine, and she was known for changing her hairstyles all the time. And I used to be a beautician, and younger self. And so I was always changing my hair. And so I had made a decision. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna commit to something. Living color. That's right. Thank you, Ekmasi. I said, I'm gonna make a commitment. I'm gonna commit to something. And when I was pregnant, I uh, committed. I said, I'm gonna commit to this hairstyle. What hairstyle is the most committing, right? Locks. And so here, fast forward, you know, 17, 17 years later, it seems like. And I came back from Africa and had did the big chop. And before then, of course, my hair was past my bottom, like on my thighs. My locks were long. And that was like the biggest shock everyone had, was what was it like? And I remember people asking me to go live, people inviting me on their platforms just to talk about hair. It was then I realized how sensitive and how much of a topic this was for our community. As I had my own experiences, Black women, um, we had such a stigma, right? Yeah, going natural, but even with just cutting your hair, it's like, I don't know if I don't remember much of the Bible these days. I know more Odu than I do scripture, but um, just, like your hair is your glory, or just putting the emphasis. So even if you don't have a weave, even if you don't have um, uh, a perm, relaxer, even if you don't have any of that and you just wear the natural styles, you still want to grow your hair out to be long, right? And so having to fight through all of that with people, and them see me happy and embracing short hair, that was a statement in it all. So it's like, yes, um, there's the European beauty standard, but then there's also, just a woman having hair versus not having hair. What does that say about her? There were people who even questioned, you know, are you married? And who are you married to? They questioned uh, my, is it sexual nature, or because of that. And I was like, wow, this is really something for people. Yeah, it says a lot, but I'm so confident in my body and my skin. It's like, well, if you really want to, you just have to watch me. You just have to pay attention to me. Um, yeah, I just is has that been because three of the four of us have low hair on the call. Has that been a thing? Have you guys received that? Like people automatically, because your hair is low, default that you are or default your sexual preference just because your hair is low?
Yes, yes, and yes. I had a lady, I posted a picture on Facebook, and it's just a lady that I really don't know her. I friended her because she had a goat farm, and wanted to get into just information. And I posted a picture, and she said she posts her response was that women that cut their hair short or go bald are it's a slap in the face to those women that have gone through chemo, um, and cannot grow their hair back because of the chemo. And we should really think about how we are, I guess, supporting or not supporting, or what that looks like to those women. The old me wanted to fire back. However, I let her have her moment. You can have your moment. But yes, a close friend of mine questioned my sexuality after cutting my hair. And I was like, that's none of your business. However, that has nothing to do with it. This was a choice that I made, and it was so freeing. Like I felt like not a weight, but a layer, or I was stepping into that next phase after cutting my hair because I started out with locks and just woke up and they were gone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing about like having short hair that I always like tried to avoid. I didn't want anybody to question, my sexuality. And so I would find ways to make my hair like pixie style or slick down or and still do, just to make it like more feminine. And I have to like also unmask that as well because part of that is my personality, right? Like I can't, just be like so revolutionary that I forget like that's my personality. Like I do like the feminine things. I do like to, have my hair like in certain ways, and that's just how I express myself. But I also have to be careful not to do those things in order to like fit a standard or not have people question me because I'm sure they do. Like, even I'm married, and when I cut my hair, my husband hated it. He hated it. I honestly think it probably changed our relationship and seriously. So, like those are the things that as women we have to battle. But at the same time, like that's not the only perspective. And I have to like it for me. And it can't be about whether this person accepts me, this person questions this. It's what I want to do and what I feel comfortable in and how I respect my energy, how I respect my divinities. And so it's even just a deeper reason than what I want to look like, right? Or what type of social stand that I want to pull. Like this is the expression of my spirit. And so with that, it kind of keeps me grounded. I appreciate traditions because it keeps me grounded in the things that I need to do. And like Miana said, when my hair gets too long, I want to cut it. I want to cut it now. It's like an inch and a half. I want to cut it. Because it's just, I actually feel when I go bald, I feel the most beautiful. Like my face lights up. Like I feel the most beautiful. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I love that all, ladies. I love it all. Ooh. Yeah, I remember having a conversation with Mianu about the hair. I think it was around Thanksgiving. I was talking to her about, ooh, do we have to cut hair? Then I start watching again my part of my programming. The last area before we conclude today, I want to touch on, especially as healers. How does the healer heal? Comes down to financial literacy. How do we look at money? What are the mental things that we have learned about saving money, investing money, being entrepreneurs? What type of skill sets do we need as healers? You know, I think as moms and as women, we are natural givers. And then how do we give when we don't have? And then we're giving from a place of depletion because we want to be able to give out. And so I honestly believe that one of the ways that healers will heal is by also addressing this area as well, their finances, building generational wealth, looking at skills that can generate income, you know, especially if you have a gifting that divinity has set you on and you can't do it all because you're busy working for someone else as opposed to working for yourself. Also to think about the high amount of our community that may be living on government assistance, you know, them telling them that you have to go here or you can't have this person living in your house because you know you will not be able to get any help, you know. So sometimes it takes the man out of the house because they're looking for a check. Not saying that's everywhere, but that's another area that I believe that we as healers need to heal. Comes down to our finances and the money that we generate. So tell me, how do you feel about that? What are some of the things that you are currently doing to have a healthy financial life as well? The floor is open.
Yeah, I think that's an important topic because as spiritual people, when you look at mainstream, when you look at how it is generally viewed, spiritual people, you have the idea that to be spiritual, you have to strip yourself of all riches and wealth and, you know, be comfortable basically being poor, right? Or being without. Um, Maybe that's, you know, a stage, but definitely when I think about what I've learned in traditions, the amount of success that you have in walking in your gift and walking in your calling is manifested through your legacy, through your wealth, through how you um, interact with society in that aspect. And so, it's important to talk about wealth and to talk about legacy. I think as African Americans, at least, or just across the globe, when thinking about the Christian church, there's a lot of trauma there. You see churches on every corner, and then you see the pastors with their jets, with their Mercedes, with their big houses while their congregation suffers and is told to just pray about it. And so there's a lot of trauma that I think goes with that within our community that keeps us from, as you move into your spiritual journey, from recognizing that wealth is important, that you building legacy and community is important. Um, and so that's one of the observations that I've seen. But it is important as you grow, as you develop your gifts and talents, it is important for you to build some legacy and to build wealth around that, so that you can further support that, that gift, or support that what you are putting out into the community, help others as well. And so that's something that we don't look at very often, and we don't recognize the trauma that we have around that.
So true. Again, I think it comes back to the negative programming that we've received. You're always going to be poor. You're good for nothing. And even though when you think about a lot of the inventions and how smart we are, like I think you mentioned that earlier, Agbasi, like we have the ability to generate wealth. And I think learning that skill set is important for our community. And for those of us who learn that information, passing that on to our families and also the community in which we are working with. I'm going to release the floor to Miano.
Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, about the question, and wanted to make sure I gave time for everyone to speak. But this is a very dear, dear conversation to my heart, because it's something that I battled with for a very, very long time. Little story about me. When I first decided to repatriate to Africa, my goal, right, on that particular trip, it was more than just me, it was a group of us, and we were going to repatriate, and we had moved, like said goodbye to our families. We had like did all of those things, and um, went on a trip to Benin, right? And our goal in that trip was to buy land not far from the temple and to live in harmony with earth and just live a very simple life. To live in the forest, in the village, eco-friendly life, very simple life. And we were going to build our own houses, and all of those things. This was the goal, right? We had, this was our plan. And I remember one of my elder teachers said, great plan, but let's just double check it with Fa. And I was just like, but this is, we're doing away with colonization. We're we, I'm done with Western ways. I just want to be one with nature and my indigenous principles, but okay,
We'll give her a minute to come back on. I think her Wi-Fi went out, her phone went out.
So funny story. My phone just died, so I apologize. I have to, I have to continue the story from Agbasi's phone, but so we did the reading, and my voodoo was screaming. My voodoo was screaming. They said I needed to go into the city and find Don't worry about the cost. I needed to find like luxury. Like I had voodoo that were with me that governed over luxury, and I had to go find something suitable for the voodoo because those voodoo were screaming and were so appalled at my plan. And um I had to, and there were like tons of sacrifices and offerings I had to do to appease them because they were so upset with me, just with the idea and so much energy and momentum. I was even leading people into the forest and into a very um, simple, harmonic life. And they were just like, you can have all of that, but we need Lux. And I said, okay. And so that there was the catalyst that spun me into a forever learning wheel of, about my relationship as a spiritual person with money. And the evolution of that now is a course that I offer, and it's positive flow. And that course is where I teach people the indigenous wisdoms that I've learned on my journey in my search that show us that it is okay for us to have have a relationship with wealth. It's okay for us to seek out abundance. It is okay. It's actually natural to us as African people. And for us not to have wealth is more of a curse than it is a blessing as African people. And so, yeah, I offer that course. I've been teaching it, um, and it's one of those things where had I not been on my journey and had that experience, I would have been the one who says, nope, you guys would have seen me, YouTube videos of me, building my house in the forest. This is me, like that was our plan. And so I'm so grateful for one, my spirit being teachable at any age. Um, Me being open and obedient to Fa and the universe, and just trusting um, uh, the wisdom that is given to me, and trusting my voodoo, you know, um, and always checking, because I tell you, I would have made a big mistake for me, right? With my cosmic makeup. Now, for the next person, we don't know. That's the beautiful thing about the spiritual journey is that, each person, it's unique, and each person needs to do what is unique for them and their cosmic makeup. And and so, yeah, that's something we need to talk about is our relationship with money. And it's not a one size fits all. It's not a one size fits all. And we need to know that. And we need to ask, where did that come from? Always ask, where did that idea come from? Can I trust that source? Right. And where did their idea come from? And where did, and just keep going back and keep going back at why? Where did it come from? Where? Until you get to the root. And if it doesn't land you in something rooted in nature's principles, and meaning universal principle, law, you should rethink it. You should rethink it. That's all I wanted to say.
I am so happy that you were obedient, because I have benefited from positive flow and the knowledge that you have from teaching that course. And definitely probably one of the biggest blessings that I have. I mean, from the first time I started taking that class, every week I was like, oh my goodness, again, reframing some of the things that, we've been taught, going back to my statement that I said earlier, who said that? And so reframing. So I'm very, very happy to benefit from positive flow. So we are going to close out. I wanted to make sure that if anybody had any final things they wanted to say, that we can say that before we exit off today's call. And I am so grateful and very thankful that each and every one of you, your ancestors, showed up, and we had an amazing sister circle. So anyone want to say anything before we say so long? Like my daddy always says, my dad never says goodbye. He always says so long. The floor is open.
I just want to say Adupe for all the information, all the wisdom, and also time. So Adupe to each one of you.
Yes, I love that we had this beautiful discussion. It opened up so many avenues that is helpful to all of us on our journeys. I'm just excited because Ifatope, your input, your presence, it really gave a different dimension to the conversation, and it's refreshing to see women, Black women talking about their journey, talking about their experiences, and really infusing that knowledge into the conversation will help so many. And so I just appreciate your presence here. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for more conversations. This is beautiful.
All right, I know Mianu's phone is out. Want to make sure she doesn't have anything to say before we close. She's good? Okay, is she coming, or is she good?
Alapia. Just in closing, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. And this was an unexpected twist to our normal program that we do, but it was beautiful, it was timely. And honestly, it might be something we revisit in the future. So I think that's how inventions happen, by accident, right? And so we might have stumbled upon something. So for everyone, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Oda.